it was something I came to invent over about 8 or 9 years, because I first of all saw a neck timer which had been made by a man for his daughter, and it had the same sort of action, but I realized there was something in it, and I went on playing with this and trying to make it better. The lamp works by getting the oil, which is slightly heavier than the water, to expand until it gets lighter, and then it starts to float up because it's lighter, and because, of course, the heat under it makes it float naturally. Well, when we first started it, the Astra lamp, as we called it then, we manufactured the glassware by hand-blown crystal glass. And in those, obviously in that state, it was in very small quantities because it was extremely expensive. And then we looked around to see if we could get a bottle with a proper screw on top, and eventually we came to find what was then called a treetop bottle, which was made for squash, and it was made by Vandenbergs, who of course made it by the hundreds of thousands, and they very kindly let us use their bottles. I think they were quite amused, and that's how it began to take off. Lava lamp attracts me because of its particular shape, which is more like life, the cycle of life. I think it attracts most people, and in fact, one of the people who in the early days were talking about it said, you may hate the lava light or you may love it, but you will never ignore it. Basically, it is a wonderful shape, and I think it's a psychological shape that people like. No, I was not on drugs at all. In fact, I didn't know very much about them. This was right in the days before people were starting to take drugs. And I don't think you need to take drugs if you have one lamp, because it's got everything there for you. Well, I think the motion in the lamps is very extraordinary. It's very psychological. I went to one well-known shop, and the lady there asked me to set it up, which I did. And I said it took about an hour or two to get going, so she went out. When she came back, she said, "What's that horrible thing doing here? Take it away, I don't like it." And that was the first really reaction I had on it. So I wasn't put off. I went eventually to another well-known shop, and they took 3 dozen straight off. When we actually made the original Astra lamp, and it began to be popular, we got the hold of the treetop bottle, and that started to increase our circulation, and then we made our own bottles, and it slowly grew into a much larger thing. We started then, of course, we were discovered by America, and they got a concession for us to license them, and of course they sold it in very many, probably a million or two out in America. Well, I think the new flock lamp is very exceptional, that it is, of course, a limited edition, so it should be very attractive for people to look at and to use. The future will go on for the lava lamp for many, many years. I don't think it's a shape that will change, because it has this fascination, which I'm told is Freudian. It's like the cycle of life. It starts from nothing, it grows up and starts to expand, and then when it gets to the top, it starts to break up and starts all over again. I think it's a perpetual motion. As new generations come up, this generation now who are buying them in such vast quantities are all the sons and daughters when they were little boys and girls, who probably their parents said, don't go near that, you mustn't touch it. And they weren't allowed to go near it or touch it. I think now they realise they can, and they buy them, and it will go on forever.